Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking all about how to write a disclaimer for your blog or website. I'm Amy Nessheim, founder of Artful Contracts and a lawyer for creative entrepreneurs. In this video, I'm going to share with you my super simple process for how to write a disclaimer for your website or blog. If you're not sure if you need a disclaimer for your blog, go ahead and check out my last video right here, and that'll tell you how to know if you need a disclaimer for your blog and why you should have one. So go check that out and then come right on back here. Before we dive in, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and little bell so you'll be notified the next time I have a video. I'm doing a series right now all about website policies, so you'll want to stay tuned for next week where I'm going to talk about terms and conditions. So make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you can get notified when that video comes out. Now let's dive right into writing disclaimers. A disclaimer is just a statement that denies responsibility or liability, as we like to call it in lawyer speak, for something that you shouldn't be responsible for. It basically clarifies the relationship between you and your reader or your website visitor, whoever you're talking to in your disclaimer. It prevents your client or your reader, your website visitor, from suing you for doing or not doing something that you never intended for them to expect from you in the first place. Like we talked about in my last video, you need a disclaimer if you are giving advice about something that could be interpreted as professional advice, if you use affiliate marketing at all because that's required by the FTC, or if you use testimonials or case studies. So the way that we're talking about writing disclaimers today applies to all of those situations. A disclaimer really comes down to identifying and then getting rid of a misunderstanding that could come up between you and your audience or your reader. So writing a disclaimer really has to do with getting rid of that misunderstanding and clarifying what the expectation should be instead. So there's a really simple three-step process that I have for writing a disclaimer. First, you need to identify the potential misunderstanding. Second, debunk the misunderstanding, so basically say why it's not true. And then third, you need to say that you are not responsible for any consequences that could come about for the reader or the audience based on that misunderstanding or them taking action based on their wrong belief. So let's break that down based on those three situations where you might need a disclaimer. So first off, we're going to start with identifying the misunderstanding. For the first scenario where you're giving advice, the misunderstanding would come from your audience thinking that you are a licensed professional in the topic that you're talking about, or that you are your reader's personal professional, that they're your client, or that you're saying that they shouldn't go and consult their own professional in that area, that you're saying that you are the only person that they need to rely on for that information. So to identify the misunderstanding, the first thing you say is to identify the type of advice you give. So for example, for me, I talk about legal topics. So when I write a disclaimer, the first thing I say is, hey, I talk about legal topics, and it might sound like I'm giving legal advice, but I'm not. You are not my client. I'm not your lawyer. The information that I'm giving is general legal information and not anything specific to your situation. So the potential misunderstanding is that I'm giving you legal advice, and I identify that misunderstanding by saying, hey, I get that you might think this, but it's actually not legal advice, it's just general information. So for a health expert, it would be a really similar thing where they would say, I give information on this type of health, this type of diet, or this type of fitness routine, whatever it is, but I am not a licensed doctor or licensed nutritionist, physical therapist, whatever applies to their situation. So don't take this information that I'm giving you as personal advice tailored to your specific body, your specific nutritional needs. Don't take it as the only information you rely on. I'm not saying you should skip your annual physical, anything like that. So they would identify the misunderstanding as their advice being professional advice coming from a licensed doctor or medical professional tailored to their reader or their audience. So that's the first step as it applies to giving advice, but if you're using testimonials or case studies instead, it would look a little bit different. So what you need to do to identify the misunderstanding if you're using testimonials is to basically say that when you use testimonials, you aren't saying that every single person is going to achieve those results. So the potential misunderstanding is that every single audience member or every reader is going to be able to have the same outcome as the people who you talked about in your testimonials or case studies. So you need to say that you're not making any promises about what kind of results you're going to have. You're just saying this is what happened to these individual people, and it doesn't mean anything for what the reader is going to achieve based on applying your coaching or your advice or your strategy, whatever it is that you are giving the testimonial to advocate for. For the last situation where you are using affiliate links or getting a commission for promoting a product, the misunderstanding would simply be that you are not being compensated for talking about that product. So you just need to point that out and say, look, I do think this is a great product, but you need to know that I am getting paid to say that. So you just point out the fact that you are receiving compensation, whatever that is. It could be a free item or a discount or a commission, a percentage of the revenue, whatever it is. You just say, hey, I am actually being compensated to talk about this. I'm not doing it randomly or just because I feel like it. So you identify the misunderstanding by saying, like, yes, I have a reason for talking about this. It's not just my opinion unsolicited by anyone else. The second step in writing a disclaimer is to dispel or debunk that misunderstanding that you identified in the first step. So for that first example where you give advice, you're just going to basically walk back that misunderstanding and say this is not the case. So if you're giving advice, you would say, hey, I am not a licensed, whatever it is, licensed doctor, licensed tax advisor, something like that. Or even if you are licensed, you would say, I am licensed to do this, but you are not my client. We're not creating a client relationship by talking about this or by you reading my blog or commenting on my stuff, anything like that. And anything that I say is just general information. It's not going to be tailored to your specific situation. It doesn't apply to everyone in the same way. So I'm also not saying that you shouldn't go and find your own professional to talk about your specific situation. So you debunk the misunderstanding by just saying, hey, I am not talking to you directly in whatever advice I'm giving, and it might not necessarily apply to you. Even though you still think it's good advice or good general info, you need to make it clear that it's always better to get specific professional advice tailored to their situation than to rely on you as the only source of info for your subject matter. For that second example of testimonials, you would just need to say that you are not promising or guaranteeing those specific results that you talked about in your testimonials for anyone else. All you're saying is that that's the results that those people got. You're not promising that anyone else can achieve that same result, that exact same result. Maybe even that the results are not typical, as in not even most people get those results by following your steps, your coaching or course, whatever it is. And for that third example of affiliate marketing, you need to say that you are being paid or getting compensated in some way, getting a free gift, a discount, whatever it is, for giving information about that product or talking about it, promoting that product or service. Basically, in the second step, you want to make sure that your reader or your audience has no excuse for continuing having that misunderstanding that you identified in the first step. So they have no reason to think that you're giving them a guarantee or making a promise or guaranteeing certain outcome, that you are saying anything specific to their individual situation or how your scenarios would apply to them personally, so that they have no excuse for having anything go wrong based on that potential misunderstanding. Finally, in the last step, you say that you are not responsible for any bad outcomes based on this misunderstanding that you have already dispelled. You're making it super clear that you are not responsible. It's not your fault. You can't be sued or held liable. You can't be required to pay anything because of that misunderstanding or any actions that your reader or audience takes based on that wrong opinion, wrong thought process, wrong belief about what you're trying to say. So you're just making it super clear that you are taking a step back and saying, not my fault. What you need to say here for the first scenario where you're giving advice, you need to say, basically, I'm not liable for any damages, which is like a bad situation or lost money, anything like that, that your reader might have because they followed your advice, didn't seek professional advice specific to their situation, or really took any action or failed to take any action relying on what you said in your blog or your whatever medium you're communicating with, your website, whatever. The second scenario of testimonials is very similar. So you just basically need to say you're not liable for the reader not getting those results. You're not making any promises, so it's not your fault if they don't achieve that level of success that you displayed in your testimonial case study. And for affiliate marketing, it's a little bit different. So you just need to say that you recommend that your readers do their own research and figure out what product is best for them based on their own situation, and then also that you're not making any guarantees about how well that product is going to work for them specifically. All right, now you know the basics of how to write a disclaimer. So going back over those 3 steps again, super simple. First, you identify the potential misunderstanding that your audience or your reader could have about what you're trying to say to them. Second, you debunk or dispel that misunderstanding. You make it super clear what the actual situation is so that they don't have any excuse for saying that they misunderstood you or relying on what you said in the wrong way. And finally, you say that you're not responsible, you're not liable in legal terms for whatever action they take or fail to take based on what you said, based on their wrong belief or based on that misunderstanding. If you found this video helpful, please go ahead and click that like button, drop a comment letting me know that this was helpful for you, and hit that subscribe button to get more tips on how to run your business legally. And don't forget that I'm in the middle of a series right now on website policies, so hit that subscribe button to make sure that you get notified when my next video comes out on website terms and conditions. So I will see you then. Thanks for watching.